Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Mid Morning. You probably don't need the latest inflation report to tell you what your bank account is likely well aware of. Consumer prices increased by the most in nearly a year and a half in January. That's according to new data. And as Jarrett Hill reports, a solution to the rising cost of nearly everything might not be on the horizon anytime soon.
The cost of food has flown the coop. The latest inflation report shows the overall price of practically all goods across the U.S. is up 3% compared to last January, and eggs are just one reason why.
It's insane. Like, where are the eggs?
To stop an ongoing bird flu outbreak from spreading even further, farmers are either investing more to protect their flocks or culling, creating shortages leading to higher prices.
We're just getting less than what we order from our suppliers.
Prices jumped 15% in January, 170% higher than in 2019. Rent and housing costs are up as well.
The president has made his position on this very clear. He wants interest rates to be lower, he wants inflation to be lower, and he believes that the whole of government economic approach that this administration is taking will result in lower inflation.
Meanwhile, many economists are trying to see how future Trump tariffs may impact costs.
If those tariffs stayed in place for a number of months, we would see prices go up and we would see the inflation rate rise.
The Federal Reserve is signaling no plans to cut interest rates until prices start to ease. Bad news for anyone looking to get a loan.
Well, checking out at the grocery store these days can lead to some serious sticker shock with food prices up nearly 2%. But a recent survey by Consumer Reports may help shoppers save money with store brands. In a blind taste test of coffee, Consumer Reports found tasters enjoyed store brands from Trader Joe's and Walmart over more expensive name brand staples. Tasters also preferred Costco's Kirkland Signature Orange Juice and Simply Pulp-Free Orange Juice over Tropicana. And shoppers may want to trade big brands for store brands in other categories too.
Whilst you're at the grocery store, stop by those personal care sections where you can see body wash and shampoo and toothpaste even. If you shop national name brand versus store brands, those store brands can save you 40% over your personal care. While grocery savings are a little bit smaller, about 20%, personal care, that mouthwash, all those active ingredients are the same.
All right, one other item that everyone is talking about right now, eggs. Consumer Reports says shoppers can expect egg prices to rise as much as 20% this year as the bird flu continues to impact poultry producers. Well, pennies, if you've got them, could soon be a thing of the past. President Donald Trump wants to stop producing the coin, saying it costs more to make a penny than the coin is actually worth. Penny blanks are made by this company in Tennessee called Artisan, I believe I'm saying that correctly. It's the sole supplier of the unfinished disc to the U.S. Treasury. Nearly 300 people work at the factory. Now, with the future of pennies up in the air, officials say they're keeping track of the situation, but not sounding the alarm just yet. Officials point out that the idea to phase out pennies has been mulled over in the past, but never happened. All right, when we come back, we meet a man who had an experience that very few come back to tell about. Stay with us. Welcome back. A Florida man is lucky to be alive again. That's because for nearly an hour, he was clinically dead. Molly Reed talks to him about the experience and what he saw.
This man is an Air Force Special Ops veteran and a recent cancer survivor. He said last week he started having some chest pains, so he came here to the hospital to get checked out. Turns out the battle in there would be one of his most life-altering. How have you kind of thought about life now?
Of course it would change your look on life. That don't happen every day.
William Basilari died last week for about 45 to 50 minutes.
And I heard him coding. I heard a code and I just knew it was him.
He went into cardiac arrest 3 times, doctors and nurses doing compressions, and kept shocking his heart. But Basil Leary says he has a memory of a vision or dream during this.
I get too emotional. I showed up in the jungle, and there were vines on this gold wall when this huge tiger imprinted its face into the wall. And I could feel a force of wind. They wouldn't let me in.
And when he woke up, he learned he also had open heart surgery. What did you think when you heard what had happened?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
The doctors here say living after 45 minutes of being dead is extremely uncommon, but the luck didn't stop there.
And the doctor came in and said, now be prepared because he might have some brain damage and then when he started moving all of his parts and he started talking and he knew what was going on and he was coherent, none of us could believe it.
It's not that common, especially for, the problem that caused what happened.
And he'll never forget that. We will never forget him. Certain patients never leave us. We think about them all the time, and he definitely is one.
Now he's resting up and hopes to be home by Valentine's Day. What will be the first thing you do when you get out of this hospital?
I like to mow my yard.
In Daytona Beach, Volusia County, I'm Molly Reed getting results, News 6.
Wow, look at God right there. All right, earlier this week on Mid-Morning, we told you about lab-grown cheese. Well, food and science are coming together again in the United Kingdom in a world-first pet food made with lab-grown meat now available. Chick Bites is a plant-based treat that contains 4% chicken meat cultivated, well, in a lab. It's made by Meatly, a London-based startup. Last year, it became the first company in the world to get regulatory approval for this type of meat to be used in pet food. Lab-grown or cultivated meat is made by harvesting a tiny sample of animal cells and then culturing them in a steel tank along with water and nutrients. In a few weeks, a protein mass is produced with a much smaller environmental impact than growing a live animal and without having to kill an animal. Only a handful of countries have approved the sale of lab-grown meat, including the United States. However, none is currently available for sale in the U.S., and Florida and Alabama have banned cultivated meat. Well, after Sunday's Super Bowl loss, Travis Kelce may be rethinking about retirement. The Chiefs tight end spoke on his podcast this week about the toll football has taken on his body. At 35, he needs to decide if he's still motivated and whether it's the best decision for him as a man and as a person.
I know everybody wants to know whether or not I'm playing next year, and right now I'm just kicking everything down the road. The biggest thing is just being there for my teammates and being there for my coaches, understanding, that there's a lot that goes into this thing.
Down as one of the greatest tight ends in NFL history, his fame skyrocketed even more after he began his high-profile romance with Taylor Swift. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Columbus native Punkin Jackson is one of the winners of CBS's hit show, The Summit, taking home a grand prize of, get this, $250,000. She recently talked with our Keely Shields about what the win meant to her and how she overcame challenges during the competition.
It is such an amazing feeling and such an amazing accomplishment because I didn't just do it for me, I did it for myself, my family. But as you know, Columbus is such a small town, and people kind of get in that mindset of thinking inside the box, right? And so I also did it for all the little boys and girls, especially the ones that look like me, to show them like you can accomplish anything you set your mind to, and don't allow someone to just put you in a box. And you can be yourself while doing it. You don't have to come and be some character that you think the TV wants to see. Just be yourself, set a goal, and you can accomplish it. And so to be that person from Columbus, Black girl, to win this reality show was just such an amazing feeling.
What would you say after going through the whole thing was the biggest mental and physical push for you?
Yeah, just having to face your freaking fears over and over and over again. I am definitely terrified of heights. I don't do it. Like, I don't like roller coasters. So to have to do all of these heights challenges over and over and over again, and just having to say mind over matter and do it was definitely something that I had to conquer. And mentally, you don't sleep. Like, I mean, you sleep, but it's not much. And so your brain just never gets a chance to turn off, and you're not being able to like recoup the energy that you need. And so that was just definitely something that was tough for me, not being able to one have your team that you confide in and talk to and tell things to, like your family, being taken away from them, and then just never getting a chance for your brain to turn off was a lot. A lot, a lot, a lot, way more than I was expecting.
Now, were there some like surprises, I guess, on set that kind of threw you for a loop?
I mean, besides the fact of you're going to be climbing a mountain, like, we had no idea that's what we signed up to do. But that was definitely the first surprise. And then you have the Mountains Keeper constantly coming and throwing twists and turns. So it was a game you could never really understand and come up with a game plan of how to play, because the Mountains Keeper is going to come and throw a twist in there, and you're like, okay, well, that's up and gone now. What I thought I knew, I have no idea anymore. So all of that was a surprise. And then I guess something that also sticks out is the very end. The last obstacle that we had was when we had to fly hanging off of the end of a helicopter. And, I fought for my position to be able to go first. And thank God I did, because I know if I did not go first, I would not have been one of the winners standing at the top of that mountain. So, just being able to trust your instinct, but also me fighting for my spot, like to be here and to stay in this game was something that sticks out and actually worked out for me. So
So talk to me about the relations you built with your co-stars going in this challenge.
You dropped off on a mountain with there's 16 of you total, and you don't know anybody that's standing to your left and to your right. And so you quickly have to try to figure out personalities, be judges of character, and you have to trust someone in this game. And so that for me was I'm a person that likes to sit and listen. I don't just jump into, situations with people very easily and quickly. And when I have a new group of friends or people that I'm around, I try to sit and listen as much as I can to try to gauge who these people are. In this game, you kind of don't have time to do that as much. I did a little bit in the beginning. And so I was able to, form connections with Jeff. That Jeff was the number one connection that I formed out there. And then once he left, I was like, okay, well, I got to switch it up. I got to figure out who to trust now. And so Becky Lee and Theron came in the picture, Patty as well. And, those are the people that I talk to the most, even post game. And so those were relationships that I built on the mountain that honestly, they are some of my closest friends now, especially Theron. Like, that is my ride or die. That's my homie, Jeff, Patty, Becky Lee. Like, we're all just super close. And so I'm thankful for, those relationships that were built on the mountain that were able to sustain even, us eliminating them and, still being able to say, hey, that was the game, and still, trust the character that we saw on the mountain to continue that friendship outside of the game.
So do you think you would do it again?
So that was a question they actually asked while we were there on the mountain. I was like, ugh, I haven't slept. I don't know. But watching it back, it was absolutely a adventure of a lifetime. So I definitely do it again. I'd love to do some other things, but if they called me, I wouldn't turn it down. And I kind of have, more a grasp on the game of what I'm getting myself into. So I definitely like to try it out again and do it again or something else like it.
Hey everybody, welcome to Next to Nature this week with Dr. John Long. And this week we're out in the woods discussing something I've always been fascinated by. I've seen these palmettos out here and I've thought that's what you would see in Florida,
That's
not
right.
in North Mississippi and West Alabama.
Right.
Kind of explain, or can you explain how they got here?
Right. Well, they're prolific in the swamps that we have down here. This is more of a swampy environment, wetter environment, obviously, and they really are prolific in these areas because of that, because they really love it. They're very cold tolerant too. They can take, temperatures that would kill other plants. They can be used ornamentally, but one of the things I think that you can confuse them with is yucca. You know what a yucca plant looks like? It's in
no clue.
Okay. Well, it grows up and it bushes out, and it really doesn't look the same. I mean, but it's the panicles of the leaves that looks similar, but not, not around.
I just didn't know what it was called.
Yeah. Yucca plant. But anyway, the plant itself had a lot of usage for the Choctaw Indians that lived in this area. They would use everything about the plant. From the leaves, they would weave baskets, they could build any type of things that you would think of that they could weave, they could make it out of these dried leaves of the plant.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, and usually there's about between 16 or 40 of these leaves on each plant. They can grow rather tall. I haven't seen any around here that's been a really tall plant. They're mostly about the same height that you see right here. In fact, I would say this is rather tall for some of it that I've seen here.
So this plant is maybe more native than one might think.
Right, it is, and it's got a really large area from along the coastal areas to up in this area. All the way to Arkansas, along the coast.
Okay.
So, and another thing that's interesting about it is that the Choctaw Indians used it for medicinal purposes. Mostly the roots is what I have found in my research. And one of the things I thought was interesting was they referred to it as swimmy head, which I would assume that's like an inner ear type deal, but they used it to treat that as well as other medicinal purposes.
You just never know what is out here in nature that can really do some amazing things.
Exactly.
What can you use these for now?
Basically now it's more of an ornamental.
Okay.
You can, and there's actually different ornamental varieties. We actually have, there's 3 that I know of, and I believe this to be dwarf palmetto. In Florida, there's a cabbage palmetto, and then there's another one called a saw palmetto. And I think the saw, I believe I've come across some saw before, because it does, the leaves really have a feeling of it would cut you.
I've seen those before.
Right, and I was turkey hunting in Florida, and there was a guy there that said, take some of that cabbage, swamp cabbage, and cut it and stick it up and make you a blind out of it. And I was thinking, swamp cabbage, it looks like a palmetto to me. So, tomato, I guess is what you would say.
Exactly. It is fascinating because different regions of the country have different ways or different things.
That's right. And they can grow really thick. I've seen an entire area covered. Well, this is where we're standing is rather sparse compared to other places I've seen. So it can get really thick as well.
All right. Again, I say it every time. Every time I'm with Dr. Long, I learn something new. All right, thank you for joining us this week on Next to Nature. We'll see you again next week. Welcome back. They've ruled the airwaves of classic rock radio for more than 5 decades. Now a new documentary looks at the origins of Led Zeppelin.
got my first drum kit when I was 10.
I was listening to rock and roll coming from America.
That's a sound I would really like to make.
John's wife used to say, "Don't you dare play with that planty."
Becoming Led Zeppelin is the first documentary authorized by the legendary band.
Led Zeppelin had never agreed to make a film in over 50 years. So we spent 7 or 8 months scripting the entire film, working out an entire storyboard, trying to find every known and unknown pieces of archive, and figuring out how we could tell this before we even contacted the group.
How many more times? Treat me the way that you wanna do.
The film is told by the band members through new interviews and previously lost archival conversations with late drummer John Bonham.
I was pretty shy, you know, the best thing to do when you're in a situation like that is not to say much and just to sort of soldier along.
We were able to give John Bonham an equal voice in the film, so each member speaks equally in the film, because Bernard had managed to track down an interview he'd done for Australian radio.
We came across this bootleg recording of an interview he did in the early 70s with an Australian journalist before their first Australian tour. And it's him and Robert Plant, and the journalist is wanting to tell Australia who these guys are and where they came from. So it's a very thorough interview.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
Becoming Led Zeppelin rocked $2.6 million in domestic box office ticket sales during its IMAX exclusive debut last weekend. The film rocks and rolls into wide release this weekend. All right, have a great weekend, everybody, and a great day.